usually I end it with this, but I want to get Jason's thoughts. We opened up the program, the 92 Dallas Cowboys O line versus the Eagles 17 line. Jason Peters, in my opinion, 9-time Pro Bowler, is a Hall of Famer. Jason Kelsey, a 6-time Pro Bowler, is a Hall of Famer. Lane Johnson's a 4-time. And off that Cowboy team, there's not one Hall of Famer off that Supposedly, the Cowboys have the greatest offensive line of all time. Well, not one of them. And Jason's cohorts have voted any of these guys, Mark Tuney, Gogan, Stebnoski, Nate Newton, Eric Williams, into the Hall of Fame. Now, Larry Allen came on the back end of the other Super Bowl, so they put him in, rightfully so. Best offensive lineman I've seen in the NFL in 30 years is Larry Allen, 700-pound bencher and can run. Let's bring our Hall of Fame voter in. A lot of NFL news as we're 28 days out from the start of camp. Jason Cole. Jason, you think Eric Williams is a Hall of Famer? Offensive tackle for the Cowboys. Has he ever been debated?
No, he's never been debated that I'm aware of.
4 Pro Bowls, 3 Super Bowls.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying he should. I'm just saying he hasn't that I'm aware of. Tuane had a weird career. Didn't have, was a converted defensive lineman. Wasn't a high draft pick. Didn't have, was a tough and was more of a tough guy, right? Like, not, he's not Jonathan Ogden. That's not.
No, he started his career at UCLA, transferred to Hawaii, and he played DT. Landry turned him into an offensive lineman, and he was there for a couple of years, and he kind of floated around on the second team. And then when Jimmy got there and then Emmett solidified the team, he had 2 Pro Bowl years. He was good, but, I mean, he's not Joe Jacoby either.
No, he's not. No, and Joe's not even in. And,
I know.
And Joe's a tough candidate, right? Like I've discussed Joe Jacoby. So Tuane doesn't qualify in my view. Nate.
But here that's funny you say that.
Nate's not. Well, let's not get lost on Jacoby. Let's go through this Dallas line for a second. But Tuane doesn't rate, with the all-time greats at that position. Nate Newton. Well, he wasn't as good as Larry Allen by a long shot, right? He's not in that class when you talk about guards.
6 Pro Bowls.
Awfully good, but just not that guy in my view. When I look at the
6
talent.
Pro Bowls, 3 Super Bowls.
I understand that, but again,
okay,
just you're when you talk about guards are tough, right? And
especially right guards.
Yeah.
How about Stebnoski, 5 Pro Bowl center?
Like, to me, Step was as good a center as there was in the league at that time. I'd have to think about it again, but to me, Stepnoski is the guy who's probably been overlooked the most. But he's not Dermontti Dawson, right? So
no, and I think Kevin Mawai's better by a tick than him too.
And Kevin was a bigger man.
Yep.
More fluid and natural. Step was a vastly undersized guy, smart guy.
Was a guard at Pitt, moved him over to center when he came to Dallas, and was a 6'1.5" foot guy, 275. Really good player, but
275, and not a guy who was naturally 275 pounds. Let's just put it that way. I'm not trying to imply anything, but
that's okay. You can.
I saw Stepnoski I saw Gogan and Stepnoski the year that Aikman went into the Hall of Fame. I walked into a conversation with Gogan and Stepnoski. Gogan, you can't miss from a mile away because he's just a mountain of a man, right? And then I walk up and there's this guy who's like, 6'1", looks like he goes maybe 220, well built, that kind of thing. And Gogan goes, "Oh, hey, this is Mark Stepnoski. Jason, meet Martin." I look at him, I was just thinking to myself,
your jaw dropped.
I was like, "You played in the NFL?" He lost. Let's just say this: he lost a lot of weight after he got done playing.
Are you calling him Pudge Rodriguez?
I am not saying. I don't know. I don't know if that man ate his way onto a roster or whatever he did, but he was not a naturally big man.
No,
right?
by
And
any
now
stretch.
he was not Kevin Gogan, who is a mountain of a human being, and
Crazy.
With a mean streak from here to October.
Hey,
right?
crazy size on Kevin Gogan.
Oh, absolutely.
What do you think of Jason Peters?
Jason Peters,
9 Pro Bowls.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a Hall of Famer in my view. I'm not going to debate Jason Peters. To me, he's probably a better player than Joe Thomas. I agree. When you put it all together, right? So the last guy, Eric Williams, was close in my viewpoint. He's just got some damaged good issues. The thing about it is none of those guys really ended up playing for 15 years at that kind of level, that makes up for not being so overwhelmingly gifted. But those guys played together better than any group I've ever seen in my life, and they were coached at a spectacular level. I mean, Hudson Houck is as good an offensive line coach as there's ever been in this league. There's some other great ones. Dante Scarnecchia, obviously, Alex Gibbs, obviously, some others. But Hudson.
Joe Bugle,
too. I mean, there's a bunch of those guys. I mean, I'm forgetting about the guy from Indianapolis. Not Tom Moore, but who was the other guy who was there for years and years? I'll remember his name. He was there when Peyton was the quarterback. Old-time offensive lineman, died in a motorcycle accident, I think. I can't remember. He was great too. But I mean, Hudson is right there with any of those guys. And again, that group played with a synergy that very few teams have ever seen.
The reason I ask you about Eric Williams is Lane Johnson. When you're evaluating offensive linemen here, and Lane has been spectacular, do you look at the right tackle position differently than you do the blindside left tackle position when you're evaluating? Or do you put them all together, Jason, and go, you're an offensive tackle. Does there more credence that it's harder to play the left side? Or do you look at because if Eric Williams is not a Hall of Famer, I'm not sure you're thinking Lane Johnson is then.
They're both tough because right tackle. I mean, we're debating Willie Anderson right now, and Willie for his era was probably as good as anybody
absolutely
played in the league, right?
Yep.
So there's a lot that goes on in that one, and it does matter a little bit to me, because obviously 95% of the time the superior athlete plays left tackle. Jonathan Ogden was never going to play right tackle. He was going to play left tackle.
Anthony Munoz
was going to play left tackle because you have to have that guy over on that side. There are some guys who fake their way through playing left tackle and do a pretty good job of it. Tuane, we've just talked about Tuane, who was the kid who played with Matt. The kid who played with New England for most of Brady's career. I'm trying to remember. He was a second round pick.
Soderly? What is his name? Soderly?
No, the guy before him. I'm trying to remember who it was.
Hey, by the way, was that offensive line guy Mudd?
Howard Mudd.
Yeah, Howard Mudd, JM. Thank you.
Howard Mudd. That's great. That's great. Yes, Howard is great an offensive line coach. He was in Philly for a while when they had, Michael Vick. Howard's a brilliant offensive line coach. So look, it's tough. So there's some of that credence, and we do favor left tackle. It's pretty clear. I mean, if you look at the guys who are in the Hall of Fame, but that doesn't mean that all right tackles get excluded. And I think that Eric Williams deserves a discussion. Willie Anderson's currently in the room, needs some momentum, obviously, and I think Lane.
Who's
Johnson
he going against?
He's pretty much alone right at this moment. Now that Joe Thomas is out of the way. It's more like there's going to be some skill position guys, some wide receivers you're going to have to get through.
Did he play next to Shields?
Who?
He's the guy from New Orleans, right?
Willie Anderson?
Yeah.
No, you're talking about Willie Roaf. Willie Roaf's in already.
Oh, that's right.
Willie Anderson, right tackle from Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Okay.
um,
Okay, yep.
Yeah, when they had Corey Dillon and
Yep.
and Carson Palmer and all those guys.
Yep.
Is terrific player. Wonderful.
How many Pro Bowls?
Player. I don't know off the top of my head. I didn't come armed with that kind of information, but yeah, terrific player.
Okay, let me ask you something. Give me your impression, Jason, of the NFL's gambling policy and how you look at it. I mean, here's my problem, Jace. I mean, you could get 4 games. You could get 4 games, Jason, for smacking your wife around, and then you could get a full year if I bet on a turtle race. I mean,
but gambling for players is a difficult thing to navigate through because you're talking about integrity of the game issues, right? You're talking about is the game on the level, and you being the great protector of gamblers that I know that you are based on our conversation from last week. And don't think that I forget anything. Okay?
I'm not a protector of it. I think the players should dip their beak in it.
Look, I don't think they should be able to gamble on the game itself. They obviously
but Jason, wait. This is what they're trying to stop. Is because if I'm a player in Philly and I call my boy Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis and he tells me, hey, listen, I may not be going and I don't believe I'm going. You got insider trading information that that has no bearing on whether or not you're throwing games or not. That's just the fact that you are going to have a heads up just like a stockbroker in New York would.
I understand that, but you don't want that in this game. Because what happens when, and you and I both know, I'm just going to bring up one name, Billy Walters. Okay, we both know Billy Walters. We know who he is. We know what he is. We don't need Billy Walters in a locker room paying a lot of money, or other guys like Billy Walters paying for that kind of information and having an advantage because players are also gambling on games. You have to keep a distance between the players themselves gambling on games. That because all of a sudden we're talking about huge integrity issues. Okay. This becomes horse racing real fast. And, look, I never covered horse racing, but I'll tell you, I knew plenty of stories coming out of Golden Gate Fields in San Francisco where the jockeys knew everything about each other and their horses. And those guys made sure that they were placing bets on what was going to happen in the action in the 7th race. Okay. Like and that's not healthy for the game. And that's one of the reasons that horse racing is as shady as it is.
Well, I'm not going to say anything anymore, but I'll just know there's a couple guys. There were a couple guys buried in the old Giant Stadium, not just HOF.
This guy might have known a thing about that guy who knew the guy and the thing.
You may know about a race. Not that I thought there was it actually a horse? I'm not sure he was a real horse.
Over at Aqueduct, that thing, that happened over there. That he knew about that. But
hey, Jason,
it's all right.
Okay, explain this one to me then. Okay. So Aaron Rodgers is at a Let's Get High convention, and he's the keynote speaker at a Let's Get High convention.
All right.
And now he's going around telling people that he takes psychedelic drugs and that he believes in all this stuff. Right. How is he not in the NFL's drug testing policy when he's admitted to taking drugs that are not and are banned by the National Football League's drug policy? How is he not held accountable? Is it because Hard Knocks has the Jets? He's got primetime games?
Well, maybe he is in the program, and they called him up after that, okay, based on that admission, which is not – the first offense is not, finable or, it's not punishable in that level.
He's admitted to taking illegal drugs.
Do you want me to answer the question, or do you want to just get on your soapbox? What do you want?
Sileo.
Answer my question.
I want whatever you want.
Oh, you don't. I am not married to you. That is not the line that you get to use on me. Okay. All right. So here's the answer to your question. A, he may be, which I doubt. Okay. B, what's the league really going to do? C, has he ever tested positive? I don't know. I doubt it. He's smart enough to probably get away from not getting tested, not getting busted on this kind of thing, because how the testing program works. It's all based on time and evaluation, right? So he's not going to necessarily get in trouble for that. So, that's how the Rodgers things works, right? That's how this goes. Look, he's allowed to say whatever he wants to say. I find it humorous. I don't take it particularly seriously.
You think it's a nothing burger?
Yeah, kind of. Like, as long as he's not high during games or not coming to practice high, that he can do what he wants. I mean, again, I'm a big believer in, like, they should open up, and certainly the cannabis marijuana program and basically decriminalize that, in the NFL. Harder drugs, yeah, I'd be concerned about, but not marijuana.
Oh no, I'm with you. I think cannabis should be something, instead of giving the players hard drugs like Vicodin and Percocets. I think that should be looked at and allowing the players. You think the NFL will get around to ever doing that, Jason? Because
they'll come around to it. It just takes. Look, the one thing that they're not sure about just yet, and that they get uncomfortable with, is, okay, I got Joe Fan in the stands, right? And he's there with his 12-year-old kid. And Joe Fan in the stands may not be particularly comfortable with drug use, and he may not really want to explain to little Joey, his 12-year-old, why this player is talking about using marijuana. It's just that's the uncomfortable conversation that they want to avoid, because it makes it tough for people to be serious fans of the game and have the family atmosphere they want.
Final question for you. So Lamar Jackson's 45-16 as a starting quarterback in Baltimore. He led the NFL in touchdown passes. He's 64% completion percentage. And yet, coming out of Baltimore, they're telling me they're revamping the offense.
Well, they hired a new offensive coordinator.
Did they really need to revamp an offense that had really pretty good success?
No, not really, other than, do you think that offense can win in the playoffs?
No, they're 0-1 with him.
Well, I mean, that's that's what the belief has to be. And I don't know how much they're really going to revamp the offense, other than I think that they have to make him a more efficient and proficient passer in third down situations. Like, the one key thing missing in his game is, and you and I both know this, in a playoff game, you have 3 or 4, maybe 5 plays in a playoff game where you got to hit a really tough pass, okay? And you got to thread it in there, because you're playing against a quality playoff defense that has guys who can close a gap. The question is, can Lamar Jackson do that? And to this point in his career, the answer to that
is no. Answer to that.
Yeah,
the answer to that, you said, I believe, is no.
The answer to that is he hasn't done that consistently in his career, is thread needles. Like what Tennessee did to him in the playoffs, they forced him to be a passer and to hit tough passes, 2nd and 8, 3rd and 8, hit him against zone defenses where he's getting stared down, and he couldn't do that. So you just sit there and go, okay, can he do that in that kind of high pressure situation? To this point in his career, the answer is no. But now that they're committed to him, they don't have any choice over the next 3 years but to try and find out, can he actually do that?
Folks, go to Amazon. Right down there. You see it right down here?
Right there. Bottom? Right there.
My boy Jason Cole right here.
Great. There you go.
You should have this right. Hey, you should have this right next to the reading throne.
Send it to Baby Gronk's dad.
See, this here, though.
Can you send that to Baby Gronk's dad?
Yes, I can, actually.
Please do that.
I can also send it to Brock Purdy, too, because his father was a Hurricane. And I know he's in Jacksonville right now.
That's a Kane baseball player, and his dad kept his mouth shut
the whole time.
He's never talked. He's not said a word. There you go.
Folks, promise you, put it next to the throne. It's tremendous reading. That's where I have this thing right here, right next to my throne, where I go in every day if I have to. You know what? There it is right there. Tremendous book. Amazon. That's
what we're talking about.
Jason, thank you, my friend. Try the strawberries too, man. Walmart does great ones. I love you, bro.
Later.
You got it. Jason Cole, please do me a favor. Hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football